Thank you for taking some time to chat, mate. I love myself a good war film. It's no easy feat, I'm sure. So congrats on getting it made in the first place. But it's good to be chatting.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it's 4 years of a lot of passion and labor and hard work, but yeah, to see it now on the big screen is fantastic.
I bet must be a really surreal feeling. Look, my first question you may answer, um, may also answer my second question, but we'll go for it anyway. Uh, Simply, why a war film? Why make war
Um,
films? You've made like two short war films and now a feature. What's the appeal?
so for me is like I grew up watching Yul Brynner, John Wayne, Steve McQueen. A lot of people that know me reckon I was born in the wrong era.
Yeah,
So I've always wanted to actually make a Western, and I made a Western. I've always wanted to make a war film, and we've made a war film, but it's actually the stories and the history and making an awareness of these remarkable stories and the sacrifices of the Anzacs or anyone that's gone through war. That's always been the driving force. It's being able to say to people, hey, look, yes, you can read it in the history books, but most people, let's face it, won't do that. But if you put it into cinema and you put it into a film format, into entertainment, people will sit there and then walk away and go, wow, I didn't realize that happened. So
that's
that,
it's a
yeah,
really good point. I think the whole the weight of war, particularly those first two and what they meant, I think that's lost on a lot of the younger generation. So I completely agree with you. It's good to see it put on film like this.
yeah, definitely. And I mean, I got to read the diaries back in high school, and I speak to a lot of people and I say, "Oh, World War One," and they'd go, "Oh, yeah, Gallipoli." And well, actually, there's 3 years that followed, and that was, yeah, for me, that was one of the driving forces why I've always wanted to make this film and tell this. There's a lot of small stories, with the actual boys themselves, but the events themselves, it's on such a grand, scale.
Yeah.
That's where I've gone, okay, we have to tell this. We have to make an awareness of this story because yeah, there's 3 years that followed Gallipoli and they were just as hard, just as bloody. I mean, the mud, the rain,
Yeah.
thousands of sandbags, fighting over what a couple 100 meters, or at times it was literally, 100 meters at most. And that's why I'm like, yeah, we have to be able to tell the story because people aren't aware of it. That's putting
Yeah.
it simply.
Yeah, good on you, man. Like, kudos to you for it. And you dedicate the film to your granddad. So I assume that he fought in World War II, perhaps.
Yeah.
Did he share stories, with you when you were growing up, perhaps even of his dad?
So he actually served. So he's not Australian. He actually served. So he was from the UK,
Yep.
and he served over there, and he's told me some stories and that sort of thing. But for me, the reason why the film's actually dedicated to Grandad is because he's the guy that's always told me to go out there, do the impossible, keep doing it. And one thing that those that know me, it's like, okay, let's make a Western. Let's do it with unconventional way of getting funding. This is impossible, but let's do it. All right, what's the next impossible thing to do? I don't know, a World War One movie. Let's do that. And then now I'm looking at the next impossible thing. And he's always been there. Unfortunately, he's no longer alive. That's why I've also dedicated to him. But
Mm,
Grandad was always there going, as long as you're passionate about it, which I was, and I am, he goes,
mm.
just go out there and do it. If someone says you can't do it, you should be using that, harness that energy, and then go and do it. So
Bloody oath.
I've dedicated this to him because of also that level as well, that he's always been there to support me.
Oh, that is awesome. That is awesome. So you mentioned that you've done westerns before. So you're carving up a notch in two very classic genres.
Yes.
Um, do you think being a West Australian makes that much easier with such incredible landscapes and or is there something else about it that does it for you?
Look, I mean, look, I love WA, right? I love it, but I'm an Australian, and the next story I'm doing, we're going to film in various locations around Australia.
Yep.
For me, it's that we didn't have a big budget for the Western, so we necessarily couldn't really go everywhere,
Hmm.
and WA had all the locations I needed. So I filmed in WA.
Yep.
The World War One film before Dawn, it was like, all right, where are we going to film this? Don't have a budget to fly to France. Is there anywhere here? Of course, down at Esperance, it's always raining, it's always muddy. The farmer that I got the property off, he did some test drilling. It just worked, it had the right soil type. So hence we filmed here and we had the sheep stations, that sort of thing. But the next film not all of it's going to be able to be done in WA. And also there are scenes, and because it's a true story, it has to be done in different states.
Yeah,
So
right.
don't get me wrong, I love WA. West Australians have been hugely supportive of this film, but also so has various other states, because I've got various businesses across Australia that have supported this. So
Brilliant.
yes, I filmed in WA, but I'm Australian. I love Australian cinema, and that's what I want to do. And quite frankly,
Yeah.
if we get to film it anywhere, brilliant.
Yeah, look, that's true. I mean, I've got to say, like, from my perspective, I think having shot it in WA for some reason just adds something to it. I think your landscapes over there are just gorgeous. So there's something to be said about that. But let's talk about your cast. You've really assembled some amazing people. I mean, notably, obviously, Levi Miller and Ed Oxenbould, both international stars in their own right. How the hell did you land them?
I made a phone call. Um,
That easy, just like that. Snap.
The guy that played the villain on the last movie, I called his agent, and she was like, umming and ahhing. Then I called him, and he described it in he did a media interview, and he said Jordon
Mhm.
kept calling and calling and calling, and in the end he said, "Fine, I'll do your bloody movie." And that's a similar story with this one, that I got on the phone and called and called and called. Has he read the script? Has Levi read the script? Kept going, kept going. Then I got a Skype interview, or a Skype chat
Yeah,
with
yeah,
Levi. And he's like, "Yeah, I love the script. I really want to, be involved in it." And by this point, I'd already made other calls with people like Miles Pollard, Stephen Peacock. They were
yep.
already going to be attached. Um, and I always knew that this, even halfway through writing the script, with Jared, it was like Levi's the character.
Yep.
We knew that and at the end of the day, I wanted Levi in this film.
Hmm.
His agent said yes. Levi was super passionate, which helped with getting the American and the UK agents on board, etc. And the rest of it's really history. It was just pushing forward, and then everything else just all fell in place. Ed came on board, Tim Franklin. I actually got a call from Tim, and that was quite funny because I don't watch Home and Away, right? So, but
Yeah.
my old man, funnily enough, had been watching Tim's particular story arc as Colby.
Yep.
And Dad was like, "Yeah, you should get this guy. He's he's a really good actor." Of course, my dad's never been in film or anything like that, but he'd been watching it. He's like, "Yeah, he's
Yeah.
really good." A few days later, I get a phone call from Tim wanting to be in it. I'm like, "Oh, you're not the guy that plays Colby, are you?" "Oh, yeah, my dad. Yeah, okay. Well, it's because of Dad that you're going to get the part, but all right." So now they're actually best mates. But um, yeah, look, the cast on this were absolutely incredible to work with, both the male and the female cast. And it was one of those things for me that, as a director, half of the job is done if you cast things correctly, and
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
was, I mean, the other half of the job was, well, quarter of the job was done because we built a set to scale. So I took remarkable actors that were already the roles that I wanted them to be in, threw them into a real set with rain and mud and sandbags. And I found the rest of it was then just harnessing and molding what I needed to get out of them.
How did they find working in those conditions? Like, they are covered in inches of
Oh yeah.
mud most of the film, and I assume for long periods of time while shooting. Was that grueling?
Yeah, it was grueling for the cast and the crew. Let's put it that way. The first day on set, everything that could go wrong went wrong because there was like 120-kilometer gust winds,
Yep.
and it was raining. It was the wettest winter on record. And so that first day we did one scene. If that, we meant to shoot 3 scenes or something like that. It was like one scene shot that day, which was like a 2-minute scene. And that's when everyone was like, "Okay, this is how the shoot's going to go. It's going to be pretty hard. It's going to be a hard shoot." But the worse it got, the happier everyone got, the closer everybody got on set,
Awesome.
the more we kind of laughed at how bad it was getting, and you'd walk along next minute, oh, now I'm knee deep in mud, and you get pulled out. The assistant camera team and whatnot. One stage where Kieran on his clapperboard, he'd mark it and he'd walk out and his boots would be stuck in the mud. So he'd run to get a boot and then he'd jump out and the other boot would be
Yeah.
stuck in. So yeah, that kind of describes the entire experience.
That is hilarious. And like I said, you got this incredible cast. Not only those two, like you mentioned, Miles Pollard, Travis Jeffrey as well. Like, just massive Hollywood movies to their credits. Is there a moment there where you're looking at them? You're on this farm with real trenches. Are you like standing outside of your body, looking in, going, "What the hell am I doing here?" Like, is there imposter
Um,
syndrome?
Uh, Not actually with the cast, because I found that they were so down to earth and they were just awesome people, like good mates to work with. That's what it felt like. I felt like I was at high school, walking through mud. But it was actually when I was sitting there and I saw 300, and this was at unit, and I saw 300 extras march past out to the set. And I looked at the DOP and I was like, what the, I had a few choice words have we got ourselves into? And that's when we looked and we're like, yeah, holy shit, this is big.
Yeah.
That was the moment. It wasn't the cast, it wasn't the set. I mean, we had 30 tons of wood for the smallest film set. We did $1.4 million for one explosion.
Yeah.
All of that stuff was big, but it was actually when I saw 300 extras marching out to that set, that all in full uniform, that's when I went, okay, yeah, this is big. This is real. Pinch myself,
Amazing. Look, I know your time is precious and you've got to run in a moment, so I'm going to end on a question. Very simply, what is your favorite war film, or some of?
Oh, that's a hard one.
Well, maybe like just a couple that come to mind.
Look, I love Hacksaw Ridge. I've always loved that one. I can't say that I can't make a World War I movie without saying I like 1917. And I like all the old school war movies with John Wayne. It's quite funny. You look back at them, and you go, oh, it's weak acting or whatever, But then the thing is, it's like it's also really real and gritty, and there's no CGI, and hence why I wanted to do the same thing with this. The drone shot, for instance, it looks like it's CGI, but it's not. It's actually explosions going off. So that's something for me. I was like, I've always really loved making it, and when it comes to like an ensemble cast, I have to say Kelly's Heroes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and that is one where I've gone, all right, look at that ensemble cast.
Yeah.
And let's bring, so like Before Dawn is like going, let's bring Kelly's Heroes sort of ensemble cast together, but let's have something gritty like Hacksaw Ridge. And
that's awesome. It's funny, isn't it? The way war films and war stories are told over the years has changed. Back then it was all
much
patriotism and heroes and all that. And these days, we look at the horrors of war a lot more. But you've made a fantastic film that is a really good comparison there. You've blended that sort of old school with new school. And I really, really dug it, mate. So congrats and thank you for having a chat with me.
No worries. Thanks for your time. Appreciate it.
Good luck with the next one too.
Thank you. Yeah, it's going to be bigger again.
I can't wait.
Let's get to it.
Here they come!
So, you're buggering off to the war with legs and Don? I can shoot.
Think I'll be valuable.
You're valuable here, Jim.
We'll come to your farm when this all blows over, eh?
It's not what it's cracked up to be.
Get down!
What was the war?
So how do you boys want to go then? Bullet, shell, gas?
I'll be going home, thank you very much.
She can get married.
Piss off.
I'm going to be his best man.
Yeah, if he's lucky.
If we beat the Germans here, they'll run all the way back to Germany. We win this together. We go home together.
Here we go.
3, 2, 1.
That's me!
Come on, Jim! Hey, I'm sorry about your mates. They seem like good fellas.
Weren't you supposed to be watching them?
I'm sorry, Nichols.
This is not fun! Get down!
Help me!
Did you hear that?
Sit down. You're putting us all in danger.
You fight for the man next to you! Volunteers!
Let's go.
Get down! Hold the bloody line!
Let's go.
No, I can't.
Come on, Nichols.
I really thought we'd be home by now.